Samsara is, in a simplest explanation, it's a spiritual love story for me. It's a story of a quest. And this story, of course, is told through the character of Tashi, who is a Buddhist monk in a monastery high up in the Himalaya, in region of Ladakh. And he sort of questions his own monastic existence. He questions what he's being taught in the monastery, and he sort of decides to renounce the monastic life in order to go and live samsaric life, which is the life in the world. And of course, this desire is driven by some of his attraction towards materialistic things. He was also attracted to a woman who is farmer's daughter in the village during a harvest ceremony. He himself has been witnessing certain turmoil in his own life. He had certain wet dream, and so mix of quite a few things. He leaves the monastery and he lives like a normal layman. He becomes a farmer, has a child, and quite a few things happen in the samsara while he's there. But one day again, he questions his own existence again in samsara, and he probably wants to return to the monastery, and well, the rest is surprise what happens. But through this, is the story of a woman, who is Tashi's lover, Pema, who becomes later his wife. Pema also is seeking in a very subtle way, maybe the same thing, but she doesn't do any of the religious practice. She's living in the world with children, housewife, but she also has acquired certain wisdom by living in the world, by being constantly in contact and in touch with life, with children, with nature. She also has another kind of understanding of life, and sort of two ideas come together as a conflict and resolve hopefully into something. Samsara is a Sanskrit word which means the world we live in. One of the meaning. It has many other meanings. It also means transmigration of soul, cycle of life and death, that we are born and reborn, and illusion. But very often these words are very difficult to translate in other languages, and that's why probably they were accepted as they were. Yoga is one of the words which belongs to the same family of old Sanskrit. Then you have karma, dharma, nirvana, and samsara is belonging to this. So if you really have to translate, then it will be like one page explanation. But very simply, for me, the simplest meaning is the best, the world we live in. The theme of samsara I already kind of dealt with in my documentaries and short fiction movies. I already tried to explore the ideas of spirituality and sensuality, or spirituality and violence, or religion and sexuality, or religion and certain things which are taboo. These were some of the themes of my documentaries and short films. So in a way, samsara was an extension of that into feature film, which is mixed of partly part autobiographic experiences, partly the time I spent with a lot of spiritual masters in Hinduism and Buddhism. So it's several things. I don't have a very clear moment or a clear place that this is exactly the reason I made this movie. But it was just an organic process. It just came out one day, and I don't even know. I myself even sometimes try to wonder, but there is no such clear explanation. And that's when the main story was written, and the heart of the story was found then, which remained unchanged, even though the screenplay and the pre-production went through the evolution over the years. And but I think the story which initially I had thought of remained unchanged. Ladakh, yes, Ladakh is one of the most difficult district to access in India. All the way up to 1976, it was closed for everyone. So there is, it's high up in the Himalaya. On an average, we shot at 15,000 feet altitude. So we had all kind of problems of altitude sickness, infrastructure, no electricity, telephone, to bring all the crew, the equipment. But this is something which I knew, so we were preparing ourselves. But then there is nothing like when you actually start doing it. You can prepare as much as you like, but it's altogether something else when you really arrive there. So there are things which we were prepared for, but there are also things which we were not prepared for. Things like Ladakh is politically a part of state of Jammu and Kashmir. So some of the Kashmiri militant had gunned down some monks, and there was a curfew and shoot at sight order. So we were stuck 6-7 days in our base camp, and it is one of those most frustrating moments that you have waited 7 years to get the crew, cast, everyone, and you have the film stock and camera, and you cannot shoot, And little later, when we just started shooting, our base camp was flooded. That river never gets flooded, but in 100 years later, it decides to flood the camp. We had certain landslide where generator went down. So the beginning was very tough. We could only shoot 4 to 5 or sometimes 6 hours a day because of high altitude and lack of oxygen. People will be exhausted after they work 5 hours. So slowly we have to add every day 1 hour into the schedule to come to a normal working hour. And for production people, it meant a huge task to organize the transport and communication, and to have the food, and to look after the baby who is like 25 days old to a 90-year-old man, to yaks and horses and dogs and everything. Ladakh is Mahayana Buddhism, which is what is known as bigger vehicle. And within Mahayana Buddhism, you have several schools, and mainly what people practice in Ladakh is called Drukpa Kagyukpa Mahayana Buddhism. But there are all the schools are present. That one of the Tibet called Gelugpa, Sakyapa. There are different schools, but most widely practiced is Mahayana Buddhism. One of the biggest challenge in Samsara was, as far as cinematography was concerned, then it's exceptionally beautiful. Our problem was how to de-beautify, or how do we find a balance that. So first thing I did was I had a lot of establishing shot. I took them out all in the screenplay, and they were all converted into sort of emotional value, into point of view shot. Like when Tashi comes to the monastery, and when he looks at the monastery for the first time, we see through his point of view. The moment we didn't make a point of view shot, they look like picture postcard, So we sort of decided to make I had made a color of palette that how the film will follow its evolution, spiritual evolution of main character as the story unfolds. So we decided to sort of, for the cinematography and for the sound, that the first part, we will not have any green in the movie. We'll only concentrate on the faraway monastery with brown landscape, high up in the hill, and all the sound will be very cold wind, no birds, nothing, and only green which Tashi will look in the first part would be one green leaf he looks, when he comes out of monastery. And then one day when he goes to the village, he crosses one solitary tree. That's almost like a frontier between the high hill and the valley. And once you saw the green color, we brought in the sounds of Samsara, the world, the children, the yak, the farms, the life. Suddenly it fills in the soundtrack. So with the green, we sort of try to use and make the emotional, like the location casting we did almost like the human casting we did for the film. So we try to integrate that and make them as human so that they also tell the story. So every time we cross the tree, straight away the film gets filled with this sound, and you see much more green. And as he lives his life in the village and slowly he matures and he becomes father, you see the village sort of losing its green and going towards autumn. And the contrast between monastic life and samsaric green is reducing. And when he becomes a monk again, it's autumn, it's full yellow, and which is once again a color of enlightenment, So in a way, we chose this color palette, we chose accordingly the sound design to construct and weave the beauty of Ladakh, and we made sure that we don't use any music which will narrate the landscape and add to all that. We made sure that we use very organic sounds. We use instrument which have some kind of spiritual history, in different religion. There are instruments from Armenia which are known for its link with time of Jesus Christ, Armenian duduk. We use Japanese niel, which is used by Zen monk in 14th century. So we try to find these sources which use which create another dimension to the image. I don't know how far it is successful, but that was intentional, to create that kind of mood and ambience in the film, so that when you look at the landscape, they become some kind of a discovery, as much as it's for the character, and the same for the audience as well. Yeah. That's one of the thing. I was really lucky. I had a fantastic crew, and without them, I would have never could have done this film. It's not possible. But with Indian producer, we already had planned. I had told them, and many of the people who did production management, have worked with me on documentaries. And my production manager, he never works as a production manager unless and until I'm making a movie. So we did like 3 films together, and otherwise he runs a healing center in Delhi, where he does meditation and conferences for stressed out executives and all that, because he doesn't like to work in cinema. So with him, we sort of made a whole strategy that, okay, we will offer something exceptional to our crew, like we had done in the past in our documentaries. We'll take this few steps further, so that when the crew comes, they also have a great experience. And we knew that we will have as many as, we didn't know how many nationalities we had till very few days before crew started traveling. And suddenly we started getting these facts that, I need to go to Australian embassy, and I need to go to British embassy. And I said, wow, my God, where are these people, they are coming from, and we had to contact as many as 15 embassies to get the crew in to come to India. And then we realized that there are such a wide variety of nationalities. Tashi, who is played by Sean Koo. He is a choreographer, and he never acted in film before. He used to live in New York. Now he's moved to LA. He did a lot of work on Broadway, and I just chose him for the body language which he had, because for me it was very important, since I would be dealing with a lot of silences. Then he had a lot of physical features close to noble Ladakhi families. Christy Chung, who plays Pema, she is quite well-known star in Hong Kong, and she was looking to break away from the Hong Kong image, which was mainly what they call B-series films, and she wanted to do some meaningful roles, and she had really loved the screenplay. So that's how she came on the board, and she was absolutely amazing. And the Indian girl Sujata is being played by Nilesh Ababora, who is half Indian, half German, in fact, from her mother's side. That's also her first film. She's never acted before. Now she's doing 2 more features. Christy is doing also a lot of other international movies. She has got offer from France, and she's going to do new Peter Greenaway, and so she has left, in a way, Hong Kong. So, my first steady just got her into new Jackie Chan movie, who worked on Samsara. So I think it's, besides these 3 actors, as you know, everyone else is non-professional actors from the Himalayan regions, from Ladakh, Sikkim, and there are a lot of Tibetan as well. Oh yeah, of course. It's making Samsara has been a great learning and unlearning experience in many ways. What was really been great is it has brought me a lot of clarity in the kind of movies I want to do, and what I want to do as far as the movies are concerned, and kind of subjects and style which I want to explore. But in a way, this film has helped me to it's made me extremely open-minded, much more than I was before. And it has given me a certain perception, I don't know how to describe it, but when I'm in totally strange country, suddenly it has given me some kind of reference to deal with all kind of people and cultural background, or, to see things in a different light, which I could feel finally it's my own. It's not somebody which has imposed on me, and I could find a way to work and understand everything in a very different way, and at the same time myself. Yeah.